Good evening and welcome. Tonight we're going to be going over the history and geography of the Republic of the Congo. And I know what you're thinking, but ASMR Geographica, haven't we already covered this? No, we covered the Democratic Republic of the Congo, not the Republic of the Congo. Big difference. Very similar names, big difference. The reason that they have very similar names, of course, is because they share a big border with the Congo River right here, but it's a colonial thing. They were owned by two different colonial powers. They both named it the Congo. They still retain the names today. So, a quick note also, my eczema has been flaring up. Like, as I was setting up to film, my eczema flared up real bad, so I rubbed on my lotion. If it starts itching and stuff, I'll grab my lotion, put it on real quick. Don't be distracted. It's gone way down since then, so hopefully. Anyway, if that happens, if you notice I start scratching, say something and I'll stop. Anyway, so the Republic of the Congo, or you can see on the map here, just says Congo, and a lot of my research has said that, they refer to this as Congo, and this is the DRC. And I think that has to do with this country being called Zaire for like a hot minute before it changed its name back. But when you just Google Congo, this country pops up first. So I'm going to stick with Republic of the Congo because that's its official name. So anyway, back to borders. It also borders Gabon over here, which is actually going to be our next country, so keep that in mind. It has this border here with Cameroon. It borders the Central African Republic and, of course, the Democratic Republic of the Congo. It also has a little border right here. This is a little piece of Angola known as the Cabinda Exclave. So it technically borders Angola, even though the majority of Angola is right down here. Congo's borders, like I said, is bordered with the Congo River right here, one of the major rivers, waterways of Africa. It also borders the Ubangi River, making up this border right here. But there are many, many different rivers all throughout the Republic of the Congo. Those are just like the main ones. And it also has a coastline here on the Atlantic Ocean. The city here, Pointe Noire, is its second biggest city, and as you can imagine, it's the big port city. This area all down here is known as the Bateke Plateau, or you can see here in its French name, Plateau Bateke. And, surprise, it's a plateau. It is flat land, a little hilly in some places. There is a higher mountain range over here, the Massif de Chailloux, I think it's pronounced. The highest point in the country is over here in this area. It's not on this map, but it's Mount Nabemba. And in the more flatter part of the plateau, we find the capital city of Brazzaville. Brazzaville is located right on the Congo River, and right across from the river is Kinshasa, the capital of the DRC. These are the two closest capital cities in the world, and they're basically sister cities. And moving up, we enter this greener part of the country. This is very incredibly forested. It does have its mountainous areas, but we honestly don't know much about it. Wow, because some of it, particularly up here in this corner, is unexplored. The forest is too dense. It's never been thoroughly explored. You can see like all the major roads going through the towns here. There are no roads up here in this corner of the Republic of the Congo. It's unexplored forested territory, and it's actually a mountain gorilla sanctuary now because it's been so untouched by people. There's one really interesting geographic landmark, which after I go over history, I'll grab my tablet and I'll show you pictures of it because it's super cool. It's Lake Tele. It's located near the town of Epena over here, and it is a almost perfectly circular lake just in the middle of the rainforest. There's no outlets or anything. It's just this big hole of water, and it contains one of the many lake cryptids found around the world. The Loch Ness Monster kind of cryptid. It's known as the Mokele-mbembe. And I've been spending all day today, gearing up to film this, thinking about where I've heard this before, because that's such a familiar name. So I wonder if I had some kind of book on lake cryptids or something. I know that Lake Tahoe near me has Nessie. Nessie, or is it Tessie? I forget. There's a lake cryptid in that lake too. So I know I had a book about that. So I wondered if it mentioned it in that. I've heard that name somewhere in my childhood. There's some book somewhere, or some like informational show I watched as a kid that mentioned it, because I was like, oh yeah, the Mokele-mbembe, that's where it lives. But it is a typical Loch Ness style brontosaurus looking sea creature that actually has had a lot of sightings throughout history. There's even people who, the indigenous people of this area, have claimed to have captured one and eaten it. There's people who have claimed to have found its eggs. It's kind of an exciting one. I feel like there's more sightings of Mokele-mbembe than there is of the Loch Ness Monster. But that's my interesting geographic fact of the Republic of the Congo. If you take away one thing, Mokele-mbembe. Let me look at my notes, see if I got everything. I think I did. That's pretty much the basics when it comes to geography of this country. Flat plateau, coastline, beautiful coastline, of course, and then the thick jungles up here. So let's go into its history. Like I said, the indigenous peoples that lived here were the Pygmy people, which, as the name suggests, it has connotations now. They were much shorter than the average person today. They were displaced by the Bantu migration, and I know I've mentioned it in like pretty much almost every Africa video I've done. The Bantu people came from Nigeria, you see up here. So when I get to Nigeria, I'll talk about the Bantu migration in way more depth and detail, because it is a really interesting migration of people. So just keep that in mind for now. We'll discuss it later. The Bantu expansion in this area happened around 1500 BCE, and many different Bantu kingdoms sprouted up around the Congo River basin here. The important ones to know for this history would, of course, be the Congo Kingdom, where we get the names of everything, and the Teke Kingdom, where we get Bateke today. The Portuguese were the first Europeans to arrive in 1484. They did lots of trade with the people in the region. You can imagine, like the spices, ivory, and of course slaves, unfortunately. And it remained just a trading hub throughout that whole part of its history until the 1880s. So another thing I mention in pretty much every Africa video is the Scramble for Africa, the meeting in Germany where all of the European powers got together and just made lines on a map and determined what they wanted. And France got this corner of Africa. So France sent this really interesting explorer named Pierre de Brazza. He was Italian but became a French national. And he's most known in history for being like an awesome guy. Like, everyone liked him. He was super cool and chill and friendly, and the people of this region loved him. He was just a nice fellow, apparently. So he signed a treaty with the Bateke tribe to make this area of Africa under French sovereignty. In 1908, France formed the French Equatorial Africa region, almost like a colony. It consisted of pretty much all their claims in this corner of the world. Equatorial, of course, because here's the equator slicing right through. And the capital of French Equatorial Africa was Brazzaville, which you can imagine was named after Pierre de Brazza. Another interesting fact about Pierre de Brazza, I've been reading about him for like the past 3 hours getting ready to film this. He was the first Governor General of French Equatorial Africa, and he actually lost his position because he was too nice to the native people. that's how cool he was. Like, people just really liked him, except apparently the French, who were trying to get him to be nasty to the Africans here. But anyway, I may have to do a whole video on him. What a strange individual. Anyway, as time went by, the peoples that lived here weren't treated as well as Pierre de Brazza was treating them. They were used in a lot of forced labor projects, in particular the big railroad project that runs from Pointe Noire and goes throughout like all of the major areas in this region down here. It was an incredibly deadly project. Of course, people were worked horrendously. But the railroad is a very important resource for the country today in terms of transporting goods and people throughout the area. I'm not saying it was a good thing that the French built it, but also not saying it's a bad thing. It's very sad that so many people lost, like tens of thousands of people lost their lives building this railroad. It's very sad. Brazzaville became an important center for Free France during World War II. It was one of like the big headquarters for Free France, because if you don't know your World War II history, the Nazi Germans took over France, so the French government had to scatter and reorganized in its many territories, mainly in Africa. And that made Brazzaville hold a like important role after the war as like a thank you for helping us out. The Republic of the Congo, I feel, transitioned toward independence a lot easier than some other countries, and I think it was because of that relationship that they had with France during World War II. They established themselves as a colony in 1958, naming themselves Republic of the Congo, and they drafted a constitution and started to recruit politicians, and that road toward independence, which happened on August 15th, 1960. However, there was a lot of anger and riots when it came to figuring out who was going to lead the country. People took democracy very seriously during this time period. There are lots of, like I said, riots, and the capital had been established as Pointe Noire, but the riots were getting to be so bad that they relocated it to Brazzaville. The first president, even that was elected, was removed after an uprising. There's been a lot of coups and things like that throughout the country's history. But what kind of slowed that down a little bit was in 1963, a new constitution was drafted, and socialism became the way of life in the Republic of the Congo. They made a lot of close ties, mainly with the Soviet Union, but also with China, with North Korea, and North Vietnam, and also with Cuba. That was an important one because the government was like, how are we going to train our soldiers to be like good socialist soldiers? So they invited the Cuban military over to train their soldiers. There was another coup in 1966, and it was the Cuban soldiers that helped prevent the coup from happening. They thwarted the coup during that year. However, there were many other coups. Notably, in 1968, the government that took over renamed the country the People's Republic of the Congo. And after that, from that point on till the 1990s, there were so many different coups and assassinations of the leaders, and there were kidnappings and things like that. I don't want to get into it, mainly because it's sad, but it's also kind of like too long to list. So, flash forward to 1991, the Soviet Union collapses, and by crazy random happenstance, the Republic of the Congo was like, maybe we should be democratic again. Like, just throwing that out there. Maybe we should try democracy again. So democratic elections were held in 1992. That kind of worked out, but then the riots and protests and things like that broke out again when it came to elections. And the one in 1997 was really bad. It actually sparked a whole civil war between the current president and one of the presidents who was in charge during the socialist era. It only lasted for 4 months, thankfully. There was a huge loss of life, very sadly, during that time, but it was nipped in the bud thanks to the Angolan military took over and helped put an end to the conflict. The the opposition president, I suppose. His name is Denis Sassou Nguesso. He wound up becoming the one in charge, and he's still the one in charge today. Mainly because he's won every election in 2002, 2009, and 2016, mainly due to wide claims of election fraud. Also, he's barred other people from running, like the people who would most likely beat him got barred from running as president for one reason or another, and other parties have ran boycotts. So the election turnout is incredibly low. He wins by like 96% because the only people going to vote are the ones voting for him. And there's also been a lot of rebellions after and around these elections. Mainly in 2003 was the first big one, and then another sparked up in 2017. I should have double checked this. It was in the Pool region. I think it's the region down in the south. I could be wrong. I'll look it up when I go to the tablet. But anyway, what's interesting about those rebels is they named themselves the Ninjas. And I read that and I think, well, surely it can't be named after actual ninjas. Surely that's some word in some like Bantu language that means this and this or that and that. But no, they actually named themselves after ninjas, like the Japanese dressed in all black ninjas. There's been peace treaties signed between them and the government in 2003 and 2017, like I said, after those uprisings. But in a nutshell, that's basically where the Republic of the Congo is today. Another one of those countries that said, let's try out socialism, and in the early 1990s was like, let's not try out socialism. Let's undo that. So let me go grab my tablet, let me turn down the lights, and let's look at some pictures of the Republic of the Congo. I looked it over briefly on my tablet because, like, when I did the Central African Republic, there was literally like one spot to look at Street View, and it was someone's backyard. But I checked this out, and there were a lot, so I thought, you know what, let me just save it for when I film. We can get my live reaction. So let me go grab a tablet, and I'll show you some cool pictures of the Republic of the Congo. Alright, so here's Republic of the Congo. Let me zoom out a bit so you can see exactly where in Africa we are. See it right there, right in the equator. And the first thing you can really notice from an aerial view is this over here, right? There was a lot of deforestation during its colonial period and early period. It's slowly being reclaimed by forest. So it's one that's slowly being improved. But I think that's like one of the more notable things you can notice from up above. There's Point Noir. You can really see the dryness over there. And let's see. Why don't I just start with showing you some pictures? So it looks like this must be Brazzaville, because you can see the water right there of the river. Let's see. Ooh, a big statue. Oh, elephant on the boat in the water. A little bridge. Here's Lake Tele. What'd I tell you? It is a circle. It's so weird looking. It's very creepy and ominous. I'm not surprised that there's monster stories about it. In the water. This is like what you think of when you think of like the Congo, right? You think of like, you know, the like stories of like Heart of Darkness and all that. Like you're on a little canoe boat with a stick going down the river in the forest. That's what I think of when, like, that's the image in my mind when I think Congo. You can see some of these deforestation regions I was telling you about. This is a little tower by the river. A little tower, I should say. It's the highest man-made point in the country. Looks like that's some kind of memorial, huh? That looks relaxing. There's a big bridge right there. Ooh, that's a neat building. Can we find out what this is? Maybe, I don't know. Beautiful bridge, spanning bridge. Looks like the New Bay Bridge. This is another really interesting landmark. I didn't write down its name, but it is this huge, it kind of reminds me of like a mini Niagara Falls in a way. It's built the same way, but not nearly as big, but also very beautiful. Gorgeous. On the river. This must be taken from Kinshasa, looking across the river there. Another shot of the big statue. I want to know more about this. Oh, because I think maybe that's Pierre de Brasse. It kind of looks like what I've seen in photographs of him. I don't know. I do not know. Yes, it is. I was right. I was right. I was right. The Pierre Savourignon de Brasse Memorial. Let's check it out. The coolest guy ever, apparently. Let's see if we can't do a street view or a 3D. No, there's no 3D of this part of the world. And no street view either. We only have photographs. Bummer, but while we're here in Brazzaville, let's check out some sights to see. See all the little dots? I was looking over here at this church because there's a little walk around it, and I zoomed in to look at it. Look at the shape of this church. A plus for this architect, right? Very beautiful. Let's take a look at it. It's such a lovely little building. Little building. It's a big building. Isn't it pretty? I love these. That's a lovely, lovely church. Let me see. It's the Basilique. Sorry, Sainte Anne du Congo. What else can we see around here? Wow, look at the city. Look how thick it is. Also, the population mainly lives in the cities here. I think it was 80% of the population lives in the cities. And that's because of the unexplored forest regions. You know, there's not a lot of places to live, you know. I was about to say St. Thomas Sankara, yeah. University of Thomas Sankara, or Lycée, I should say. Let's go over here near the airport. Look at this. Is this a hotel? Let's go right here and see what this is. It looks really beautiful. Oh yeah, it's definitely a hotel. Very, very pretty. Cloudy day. As you can imagine, the weather here is incredibly humid and hot, being right on the equator and all. They pretty much just have the one main hot humid season and then rainy season. Why don't we check out another place? Let's go over to Port Noir. You can see Kinshasa right there. Going down the Congo. Down to the coast. I went too far down in Cabinda. I forgot it flows away from the country. Here's Point Noir. Let's see what we can find here. Lots of places. Well, I think because it's noted for its beaches, I think we should look at the beach. Let's see this one. Down we go to the water of the Atlantic. Lovely. It's a fun little hangout spot. We are on the beach. It is beautiful. It's a cloudy day. But I bet that water feels nice in the hot, humid, cloudy day. Kind of reminds me of Florida, right? You get all the nasty rain clouds, but it's still 1,000,000 degrees outside. So pretty. What else can we find here in Point Noir? Look at the hustle and bustle here. I don't want to click on a street. I've learned my lesson with that. You just get pictures of cars. I want to look at places. Let's just go right here. That looks like a little junction there. This must be an interesting roundabout. Let's see. Big buildings, little buildings. What are we selling here? too blurry. I can't see. It looks like it says money, but I can't tell. Here's the roundabout. We're standing on the divider here. And more big buildings, apartment buildings. This photo's crooked. I guess we're on a hill. Big buildings and little buildings. A little residential area. This looks like a nice apartment building. Looks very modern. It looks like you'd find that in like Oakland or Berkeley where I live. Another vendor. What are we selling here? It's too blurry. I can't see. I want to know what I want to buy or what I can buy there. Can I get a little closer? No. Or we can buy some clothes here. You know, if it's not in like a tourist spot in San Francisco, if you ever find a stall like this that has its clothes out like that, always go inside because you'll find a treasure in there. Guaranteed. 100%, I promise you. As long as you're not in like the, like I said, the touristy corner of your major city, because then it's just shirts that say the name of your city or whatever. Or knockoffs and stuff. This must be Elle Gourmand. A restaurant. Nice one. This was the building we're looking at. Anyway, let's go check out Lake Tele. Let's see if we can find it from the overview. You can hear the BART train in the background. It's very loud all of a sudden. Let's see. Let me zoom way out so we can zoom back in. There's the Saint Lac Tele. There it is. Oh my gosh. It's just a dot in the jungle. Do you think anyone has a street view there? It's in one of those parts where there's no roads or anything, so yeah, no. Isn't that eerie looking? That's so neat. Oh, I'm not trying to do street view. I apologize. I'm just trying to get more information about it. Lac de Tele, a national park in Congo. I don't know what I'm looking at there. It looks like a building. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. Bummer. Oh, I think this is like the resort that's at the lake or something. I want to see pictures of the lake. Oh well. You get the idea. Anyway, this is such an interesting country, isn't it? I really hope you learned something neat tonight. I know I learned a lot researching this country. Sorry, I was looking at all the forest and stuff. Can you imagine, like, all the stuff that's not explored out here? All we have are satellite images. That's so neat, I think. I like that there's still parts of our planet that's not explored. I know that creeps out some people, especially when it comes to, like, the ocean and stuff, but I like the fact that there's still mysteries about this planet that we may never uncover. Let's let her have it, I think. We don't need to have everything, do we? Anyway, that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you found this video relaxing and educational, and I really hope even more that you have a